So, it looks like that we're all ready. Welcome to this first, can say it like that, the first event combined between CBS and the IBM Technical Expert Council. So a warm welcome to you all, and of course also warm thank you to CBS of hosting this event. My name is Cor van der Struijf. I have the privilege to be your host today. So any kind of questions that you have, things you would like to arrange, and therefore you can ask me and I will delegate them, because I have a lovely team with me. So two guys over here, Marjan over there in the back end corner. So if you have any kind of questions, we will take care of that. So the good news is you have found the room, you'll also find the coffee. Bathrooms are over there, and the drinks will be somewhere also over there. So that's about the logistics. In the room there are some other folks. So let me just give you a brief highlight on what the Technical Expert Council is. As you can imagine, it's technical, it's experts, and it's a council. So very IBM, but also externally. And therefore we are happy to be here, that we can also exchange all kinds of thoughts and ideas around open data. And therefore it's also good to have this kind of interlinkages and this kind of network and being very open. Because this day is really about open data. And because it will not only be then sending us from here to you what we are doing around open data, it's really also for the interaction. And therefore my first question to you is, I always like to put some questions to you. First question is, who knows open data? That's good. Who is using open data? Good. And do you know that open data is already mature now? So it's now the 21st century anniversary of open data, because it was first mentioned in 1995. Did you know that? I just found out that you haven't read then the flyer, because it was in the flyer. And what you see also then, okay, we are now 21 with open data, and you could say then we are mature, and therefore everything is done, everything is solved and so on. But actually it's not, so that's the good news. And also then today specifically about that. So yes, open data is there are all kinds of data sources that you could combine, but what can you then really do with it? Let's start off with one of my own statistics, because we are here at CBS. My first statistics is then a question to you. You already put up some hands. My own test always is in this kind of audience is, who will never ever raise his or her hand, whatever I will ask? I have about two. So my law, so Van der Struijf's law, is that whatever the size of the audience is, it is always 2 to 4 people that will show their hands. If you now have 10 folks, 500 folks, 10,000 folks, it's always 2 to 4. So just test it out then for yourself then. Like I said, open data today. Why open data? Because I think it's really one of the driving forces behind the industry at this time. So what you see, if you take it then from an IBM perspective, you will get some more insights later on this morning. What you see over there, two main foundations are driving this. One being cloud, so really the and the other one cognitive. Cognitive is coming more from, okay, then you have open data, you have the infrastructure in place, but what you can really then do about it. Nice example about the latter. If you take a look then, for instance, at healthcare, there are quite some things already going on in healthcare, but you can of course take it to the next step, and you really can drive that one forward. Recent example is really then coming down to one person. So it's not only about averages and so on, that the average people are doing something, but it's also coming down to one person. I think it's now really then the phase that we can really pinpoint it to one person. Example I will give you from the US. There was a Japanese lady over there, and remember the word Japanese, and she was living there happily not ever after, but some days she got sick, and so she had to go to the hospital, and it turned out that she had a certain cancer. So what you now see over there in the US, okay, you have cancer, this is the type of cancer that you have, and therefore our treatment is always treatment A, always. But then they turned to a cognitive system called Watson, so we can maybe also discuss that one a little bit later on. And she also asked an advice to Watson, so they stated I have to give treatment A to this patient, but they said then really the case, are there maybe some resources and so on going on that can really then pinpoint it down to this one person that can maybe treatment B or C or whatever be better. And what it turned out, that there was some research that for Japanese ladies, so there are some modifications in the genes of those persons, that not A is good for you, actually it was lethal for them, but you could better go for B. And B is for the rest of the folks over there is lethal, but for Japanese ladies, because of this modification in genes, it's better for them to have B. So what you see over here, combining all kinds of data sources, you really have the insights so that you can really then see what is happening over there. With that example, I hope that you will find this day interested and also very interactive. And for that, I want to give the word to Huib van de Stadt from CBS to give you also some insights from CBS and to give you also a welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Cor. My name is Huib van de Stadt. I'm director of one of the statistical divisions of CBS, Division of Socioeconomic and Spatial Statistics. And I'm very glad that we have the opportunity to welcome you here in this seminar. For CBS, open data is, you could say, the core business of our work. It is our job to publish statistics, to publish meaningful statistics on the Dutch society. And those statistics are for everyone, and that's one of the aspects of the definition of open data. CBS is part of the government, but we do not only serve government agencies, we are also for non-governmental, for commercial organizations, and they can use our data, they even can earn money with our data. Also, everyone outside our office can use our data, and they can do that without restrictions, and they can use, and they can use our data free of charge. That's also an important aspect of the open data. So we have no problems if anyone uses our data in this respect. And that makes me to the point that, to the conclusion that we are indeed one of the core producers of open data in our society with our current statistical output. But that's not sufficient. We can produce statistics with very high quality, but they should also become more easily accessible. And that is what we will be talking about today. We have done some major steps in this respect. We have created a new open data portal, and Dennis Ramondt will tell you more about that this morning. And it has made it much easier to use our data without human interventions. And what I hope is that this workshop with IBM, with all of you, will make us to make further steps into this direction. I want to make another point. CBS is one of the champions of open data, but we are not only open data. My guess is that from the data in our office, maybe even 90% or more than 90% is not open data, but is confidential data. These are the data which refer to individuals, to companies, for example, income tax data or data on the health of all of us, data on crimes and those kind of information. That's our very, very large data sets with millions of records with very private information. And we will never make them available outside our office. And we are not allowed to do that. We are not allowed to give those data. So protection of privacy is for us very important, and you could say even more important than the dissemination of statistics. However, many researchers still want to use the data on individuals, and therefore we have created our remote access facility. I want to tell you something about that also. That's a facility that people can use, that the data stay at our office, and people have remote computers throughout the country, and from that they have access to our microdata. And only after aggregation by the researcher, the data can leave our office. And this facility has become very popular the last years, with more than 100 PCs throughout the country, and also some even outside the Netherlands, with researchers using this facility. I want to end with wishing you a very successful event. We have many people here. It's approaching 100, I believe. They are from CBS, they are from IBM, and they are from many other organizations. I want to thank all of you and sharing your experiences with us. Thank you, and I give the floor to Cor again. Yeah, some noise.
Thank you. Okay, so if you wonder why we are standing here and not moving around, we also then live streamed. So as you can see over there on the camera, therefore we are standing a little bit over here. Normally I walk around, but I now stick to my desk. But that gives me also then the opportunity to give you some insights in the agenda. So like I said, this morning we will give you some information, some food for thought. And we will go more and more into details about the use cases, what we are doing around open data. And then after lunch, there will be a couple of short topics, so to say, use cases that you can really use then during the afternoon, in which we are going to be really interactive, and we will be ending then, so we will break out in a couple of sessions, and we will bring it together then again at the end of the afternoon with a panel discussion, and we will produce also some new data, so there will be also a poster with the findings that we have done today. So you can say this is a kind of hackathon, or whatever name you would like to put on it. So it's not only then sitting here in your chair, you will also be interactive this afternoon. Therefore, let's start with the one topic in this morning about then giving you some food for thought. I would like to welcome Paul Suijkerbuijk to give his view on what is then really driving open data. As you might know, he is really then the driving force behind open data. So you can see it also on his shirt, that he's really the driving force. And therefore, it's my pleasure to welcome you over here and to give your insights, what's happening and what you can learn.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Very thankful that you want to listen to me. I hope you will keep it awake for the next 3/4 of an hour. Unfortunately, I blew my English presentation. So I will give my presentation. The text will be in Dutch. And at first I thought that was a disadvantage, but when I was thinking more in a disruptive way, I thought this is your first chance to have a very short course on Dutch. So who are the non-Dutch speakers here? Hands, please. Okay. After my presentation, I will have a short hearing with you how your Dutch is. Yes? So keep a good eye on the words. Another thing is that my presentation has some interactivity in it. So I have a very close relationship with Marianne, who is in the back of the corner. Hi, Marianne. Hi. So every now and then I will ask Marianne to type in something or point the mouse to something. And in this era of technology, advanced technology, it doesn't seem to be possible to have a keyboard here with the computer over there. Where are we in this technology time? Well, thank you. I'm working for the Dutch Ministry of Interior with the learning and expertise point of open government. I realize now that translating this to English is quite difficult. So, but in English, in Dutch, it's much easier. what we're doing is within this learning and expertise point is that we are working with public servants on aspects like open contact, open approach, open data, open knowledge. So that's the starting point we are coming from. But if you're having a look at it, can you put on the blue corner here, Marielle? Click on it. Yes, thank you very much. Oh yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions. And this is not your shortest presentation ever. But don't hesitate to ask me questions. And the man in the back who's working on the video taping asked me to point out that if you are asking something, push on the button with the microphone, then everything is recorded forever. So you know. Yeah. If you are going to ask questions, you don't want to be on the internet forever, don't push the button. If you want to have this presentation, it's online. So if you copy this this URL, everyone can see the presentation. It's not it's a dynamic presentation. I will bring in changes every now and then. If I am in an other environment, I will change slides. But well, here you can follow my process in open data. You can see it online. I don't think the clicker works. Why an open government? That's a good. That's the question I want to deal with you first. And everything is about. The clicker does not work. Yeah, value. Everything is about value. If you have the approach of open contact, open approach, open data, those are not goals as such. So what's open government and open data really about? It's about value. And I want to point out value in a couple of things. For instance, yeah, it's about societal value. But it's also about, normally this should work, but I'm not quite sure if, it's about, no. This is the last the slide. One of the last slides. Yeah, that's okay. Go back. This is the presentation backwards. This is also interesting. Further back. Yeah, thank you. There we are. Okay. Yeah, next slide. Next. Thank you. It's also about economic value. Next. I just say next if you can put Marianne the blue triangle. Thank you. Next. No. This is also again the last slide. Just stay on the blue. And you know, everything is on the internet forever. Live streaming also, yes. This is top embarrassing, you know. Okay, one more back. Yes? Okay, thank you very much. There we are. Democratic value. So open data, open government gives also democratic value. Next. Systemic value. And no, one back. So if I give a summation. It's about economic value. It's about democratic value. It's about systemic value. And this last value, which is a quite new one for us, that we really recognize that open data, open government brings in also different kinds of people working together, new ways of working together within government, within society, within technological companies, and things like that. My presentation is running for itself now. That's also interesting. But most of the times the government works better if it's open. And anyone knows Frank Zappa? Okay, great. anyone knows the sentence or the statement of Frank Zappa, a mind is like a parachute. It does not work if it's not open. So I want to keep you that in mind. Okay, next. 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 Yeah, thank you. Next. Okay, open data. Next. What is open data? Normally I just flip through these slides and then everything is very smooth, but the clicker is really not working. Okay, it's about publicity. The first important thing about openness is publicity. And we do have a law for it. Next. And this is our Freedom of Information Act. Onze Wet Openbaarheid van Bestuur. Our Freedom of Information Act. But next. This law only arranges the publicity of information. So in many times, it just delivers documents, which PDF or even printed out documents with a lot of blackness on it. It's not very useful for reuse. It's just information. If you can read it, then you're fine. But if you're not able to reuse it, it's very limited in functionality. Next. Okay. I was having a dinner with a couple of our Freedom of Information legal guys, and we went in a restaurant where this was presented to us as a card, and everyone, and that's very natural when you're going to make things black. But those guys also wanted definitely to eat what was blacked out. It's very human to just want to have what you cannot get. So there's also always a tension within this Freedom of Information Act about what you get from information side, from information perspective. Next. But the other side of openness is reusability. Open data is not functional if you're not allowed to reuse this information. Next. And we also have a law for that. That's based on the PSI directive, which is being implemented by the European Commission. And we implemented it on the 18th of July last year. Then from that point on, the law of law on reuse was effective. So, next. But if you have a view here, then you can see, I pointed out a couple of things, because both of the Freedom of Information Act and the law on reuse are both reactive laws. So they are upon request. You have to ask for information. So what we see here at the upper level is upon request, and at the bottom here you have upon proactive upon request. Here you have the goal of transparency, and here you have the goal of reusability. And then you can see that this is our Freedom of Information Act. It is effective in the area of on request, and as goal transparency. On this side you have upon request, and it's for reuse, for economic value and reuse. But on the bottom side, on the proactive side, you don't have a real law. There's a little bit of it in the Freedom of Information Act. There's one article number 8, which states something about proactive making available of information, but it's very limited. So most of it is not being regulated within legal or laws or things like that. So we created a guidance on open data, and this is mainly stating that open data is being limited by the Freedom of Information Act is the basis on of publicity. But open data is free. It's free. It's free of charge. Open data is available as is. Open data is free of any legal aspects. Open data is free without any registration. Open data is computer processable. Open data is foreseen from metadata. It's as full and complete as possible. Open data is timely. Open data is findable through putting it on data.overheid.nl, our Dutch open data portal. So this this guidance on open data really helps us in the area of proactive supply of open data. You can use this guidance. And this guidance is also sent to the second chamber, so it also has a political effect. I'm not quite sure how this will continue, because yesterday in our parliament a new concept law has been agreed upon, and which goes much further on proactive availability, making available of open data. So, and the implications of that we really have to look through, but at least we have this guidance on open data. Next. So, in the most short version of open data definition, you can say open data is public government information, reusable without any limitations. That's the most short definition of open data I can give. Thank you. No, wait. If you can click on Start, Marianne. No. Next. Yeah, and click Start, which is there. And let's see what open data really does. Start. I think some of you already recognize, most of you Dutch-speaking guys or Dutch people recognize where we are. This is in the northern part of the Netherlands. This is Groningen. And as you can see, there are a lot of drilling equipment. They are getting gas from the ground, which is bringing us very much money. So a lot of the money we have in the Netherlands is from these gas fields over there. But with taking this gas from the earth, something else is happening. There are earthquakes, and they are quite special earthquakes. It are earthquakes in a weak ground. Most of the areas where earthquakes are within mountain areas and with rock solid ground. But this is a very special occasion where earthquakes are happening in swampy-like areas. And what the owner of this website created is a website where he shows during time. So we started in 1987. He's showing what kinds of earthquakes were happening and where they were happening with which force. Every now and then you hear a bell, and that means that there's an earthquake with strength greater than 3 on the scale of Richter. Although the scale of Richter is not applicable to this area because of the fact that it's soft soil where it's happening. So the mechanics are different over there. But what you can see, and which is very visible within this presentation, on this website, is that we really do have a problem with earthquakes in the northern part of Groningen. As you can see, that Loppersum is already covered with the orange areas, which is an indication of how many earthquakes there have been in the area of Loppersum. Then you realize that there's something happening in Groningen, which we all in the Netherlands do know that there are earthquakes in Groningen because it's in the journals, it's on news, it's in the papers. But the real effect of these earthquakes, if you're living in Loppersum, is being visualized by this presentation much better than you ever realized on just looking at the news. So the impact of open data in this area is immense. It gives you such a different way of understanding of what's really happening. And that's, I started with a couple of laws, and they were dry, and it's a lot of text, and but this is what open data does for society. Okay, next. Just the blue corner, yeah. And one of the things open data does is creating a shared information position. And most of the times, if you start a discussion with someone, the first thing you're going to do is that you are searching for what does he know, what do I know, and you're trying to get on the same level of information before you can start a useful conversation. But with open data, just a part, it's not everything, but a part of your discussion can be there up front. Before you start your discussion, you already know and you already agree upon the fact that these earthquakes in Groningen, that you have a problem. So you can start with a different point of discussion, which it makes it more effective to have a good and proper discussion. Next. A couple of times next. Everything belongs to a changing society, and it's about a participatory society. It's about technological innovation. Next. It's about social media. It's about deliberative democracy. It's about horizontal society. It's about transparency. It's about open data. Yeah, stop. And social innovation. Probably you showed the picture already, which I showed behind it, and there's a reason for this picture. How many people here are creating presentations? Hands, please. Yes, I think you do all. Henrik, you also. Yes, sorry. And most of the times you're getting just your pictures from the internet. You're copying and actually, I think whoever asked for someone, the owner of the picture, if you were allowed to use this picture? Ah, one. Okay, thank you. Okay, two. Great. You are great guys. Perfect. Great. I took this picture from our museum, our Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, one of our biggest museums in the Netherlands. Is offering images of all of the whole collection free for reuse. So I'm allowed to use this picture in this presentation. I'm allowed to do whatever I want with this picture. I don't have to mention who's the owner of the picture. I can do what I want. So, and for that reason, I will use those pictures in this presentation. Sometimes I'm really looking if the usefulness of the picture is there or not. I don't know. I will use these pictures. Next. Another one. Next. Stop. What you see here is that it's not easy to work with an open government. It's not easy to have open data within your organization. And I will explain you why. This is your formal front office. The entrance we had here and the area we are now. That's very good arranged, and we are delivering services from this perspective to everyone. That's great. And within our organization, we do have an organization, we have processes, we have architecture, we have all kinds of data models, and we have our raw data. Suppose you're creating a report, and I think you are doing that as a CBS. You're creating a report, you're publishing this report, and you think, okay, that's from a government perspective, everything is fine, people go to bed, nothing wrong here. And then and because of the fact that you're supplying the data also as open data, someone picks up this data and says, I disagree. The conclusion you made in your report, I can prove from the raw data I'm using, I can prove that your conclusion is not complete, correct, or is limited. And if you are not supplying this data as raw data, then you don't have this problem, because, well, anyone says is disagreeing with your conclusions, you can say, oh, we saw in our data that this is the case. But having the raw data, you really have to get used to the fact that people will challenge you, that people will ask you questions about the conclusions you're making. And that's a new way of thinking. That's a new way of working with society from government organizations. And you can think that it's difficult. You can think that it's not good for you. But you can also think, and that's the way I want you to think, you can also think, well, that's a brilliant challenge you give here. That's a brilliant new insight you give us here. And that's also a brilliant new insight which has been by society and government taken very serious, because there's a real challenge on your insights. And that's the new way of thinking which open data, open government gives you. It's a real benefit. But it's also difficult to do. It's also, you have to think how you're going to work with that in your organizations. And a lot of government organizations are not ready for it. But you have to, because this is coming. My next slide will not give any solution. So, sorry for that, but I will leave you with the problem. Okay, that's a challenge, thank you. And I made up, during my workshops I had in past times, I've written down all kinds of hesitations there were. And well, take your time to read it, because if you're a government employee and you don't want to offer open data, pick one of these arguments, then you're okay, you're fine. So I'm trying to be helpful here for you. Yeah. Okay. Next. In the meantime, next. In the meantime, a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of things are happening, and this is one of the examples I really like. This is 10,000 schools. 10,000 schools is about the ability you've been offered to choose a proper school for your children. There's information about our Ministry of Education. There's information about how the school and the teachers, and there's information about inspections, and there's all kinds of information. So you really are able to pick a proper school for your kids. Next. And this is another information which is available for as open data at the moment. Today, I think it's today. The CITO scores for kids is today, or yeah, okay. That we do have annual a point of measurement for all school kids, and with a standardized measure method. And when this information was supplied for free as open data, a lot of journalists made up all kinds of reports on it. And so there was more openness on the results of certain schools. Or you could see what's the average CITO score of a certain school. And one of the interesting things which happened is that this gave insight, but another discussion came. And the other discussion which came was the usefulness of having such a measurement period for school kids. And it really changed based on the discussion, also on the discussion around open data. It came across that the CITO scores are not so important anymore at the moment for having the school for the next school for your kids. It's more on the teacher based who thinks which school is better for your kids. I'm not quite sure if that's good or bad, but it has impact. So supplying of data has impact on how we are thinking and how we are working. Okay, next. Raudel, if you're making an appointment with a couple of people, you can use this application to come to the best point to have your appointment. So you can fill in a couple of leaving points. It only works for the Netherlands. I'm not quite sure if your whole IBM organization could work with such a system, but for the Netherlands this works. So you can fill in a couple of points, and then you get the best location to have your appointment based on on CO2 emissions, about costs, and it will also give you the best location to have your appointment. Next. Next. Okay, thank you. This is real life, our public transport in the Netherlands. Everything which is driving around, and at the moment there are about, well, there are 4,700 trams, buses, trains, everything. And you also see it moving on the map. If you zoom in, we're not going to zoom in, but if you're zooming in, you can see well, every public transport main moving on the map. Or you can make some other selections. Oh, it might be. No, I don't think you can. Also, the rain radar, you can also put it on. But when I came in here, it was very sunny, so I don't think it will show anything special here. But okay. Thank you. Next. This is the fine radar. I'm not quite sure if this is a proper translation, but what this map does is that it shows all average driving speeds on our Dutch highways. And it's there's made a combination with the allowed speeds there, and there's been made a combination with our fine database. So if you add up everything, you get the amount of fines our Ministry of Justice could get at this moment in time. That's useful. Next. Oh, sorry, there's a question. Push. You want it on YouTube ever?
It's general. Assuming that all these applications are on the internet, it's a practical thing. Is it possible for us to get a list of these? Because I want to show them to.
Yeah, if you the URL I showed, if you have it, then you can see this presentation. It's online, so you can click through everything. Yeah, and at the end, the URL will be there again, so you can see it. This is another application. Thank you, Marianne. This is another application. I'm not quite sure. This is interesting. This is Google. I'm not quite sure whose PC this is. Okay, okay, we're not going into that. What we're going into is that best of snel, rather fast, is an application also based on average speeds on our Dutch highways. And what they did is that they show everything which is above the 170 kilometers per hour. And it's just on a map, so you can see it. But when this application was there, I was really, actually I was a little bit pissed. I thought if this beautiful information is going to be used for such an application, which is, it might be dangerous. If there are people around that say, okay, I want to be on the map, and they are going to speed drive, that might be dangerous. But another interesting thing which happened was that there was another site, flitservice.nl, and it's a club of people who want to speed drive. But they discussed the results of this. They really went into the data, and they said what they are doing with the data is not possible to do with the data, because the detection systems in our highways are only giving the outcome of an average of more cars, and not just one car. So there might be, at this moment, I'm not quite sure, but there might be a couple of cars driving 280 kilometers per hour on on one of our highways, but I don't think that so many cars will drive this. So they really said this application cannot be okay. So the interpretation of this data is not good. It's still there, but it's just having a marginal existence. And I think that they still are here because they have some advertisements incomes, which we're not going to discuss. Next. This is also very nice. If you can scroll it a little bit up, Marianne. Let's see. Yeah, perfect, great. Thank you. We can see election results here from our 2012 election, and what we see here is that the election data of all cities and in Netherlands is represented in circles. The bigger the circle, the more similar the voting behavior is within certain cities. So if you go up, Marianne, again. Thank you very much. Then you see, if you click here on radial. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Then you see which cities are, well, we are in Gennep. I don't know where Gennep is, but we are in Gennep. And then we can see which cities are quite similar to Gennep, according to the voting behavior, or different, or extremely different. And it's interesting to see that there's one city which is extremely different. Can you click on it, Marianne? Can you click on it? Yeah, click. Yes. Is there someone from Urk here? Oh, Urk is nothing like the rest. Urk is very different. Urk is a Christian, one of our Christian cities in the Netherlands. Thank you. Sorry? For a former island, yes. Okay, next. This is also very interesting. This is an article actually, and if you can scroll, yeah. Thank you, Mario. What this does is that in Utrecht, the city of Utrecht, there is an environmental zone in the center, where all the cars and specifically diesel cars are not allowed to drive anymore, and it's a regulation from government. But what happened is that a bunch of journalists went into the data of the measurement points of the air quality, and they saw that there is a real beneficial effect of having this environmental zone within the city. So in this case, the regulation of the government is being enforced by the fact that a couple of journalists proved that the government was right in this regulation. That's nice. If you're a government, that's nice. But it might also be the other case that people say, well, it does not have any effect on the air quality, so it's not useful. But in this case, it's a good example of seeing that it was effective of having such an environmental zone in the center of Utrecht. Next. This is the collection of elderly caretaking in relation to the environment. Where are certain service centra and where are people living? Next. And very interesting results came from this. And this is another example. This is we do have. If you can click on the movie, it starts. Yes, thank you. I'm not quite sure if no. Try again. Yeah, thank you very much. We do have in the Netherlands. We do have our height every 5 centimeters. We measure our height with lidar, with radar, and things like that. So that's a huge data collection which has been available for open data. If we talk about big data, this is big data. But what they did here is making a movie of a flyover of a part of the city based on just the measurements. And which is interesting to see is that you get an overview of the city in a total different way of censoring. And I'm not quite sure what we can do with this data, but you can imagine that all kinds of innovation will come from this. I think, yeah? Push in the button, yeah.
I have a question. How can we be sure that this data can be trusted? Because people might have interest to manipulate sources.
Yeah. Yeah. The raw data is being supplied by government. So it's somewhere on a government server.
Oh, okay.
And if you get it there from the government server, then yeah, you can be sure to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yes? But if you push the button, push the button, push the button.
I think I know one place where this is used, because yesterday I was looking in my app TomTom Go,
Yeah.
and I saw that they actually have the shapes of the houses, and I wondered how they do that, but I think now I understand.
Yeah. Oh, great, brilliant. Yeah. I'm quite in Apple Maps. You have also a 3D representation of certain parts of cities, and I think that they are also imposing visual images on these kinds of data sets, and which is giving sometimes a very strange effect that you see some buildings which look to be half melted. Things like that. So, but it's interesting. Next. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, question. Yeah. I think the question about the reliability and the trustworthiness of the data is very relevant, especially when I look at this collection. Just imagine you want automatic flying using data from this or other decision-taking software making use of this data. Then you better be accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, and timely. What another problem is with the actueel hoogtebestand is that the real timeness of it is very low. It's been measured every, I think, 1 or 2 years. And on the movie you saw a building crane. This building crane will be there for half a year, and after that it will be gone. So you always have to take into account that the trustworthiness of the data is limited in relation to real timeness and things like that. So and so yeah.
So my next question would be: is the data provided in display from the government?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Very good question. We did some research on that, legal research, because just the reason you mentioned is the fact that and the crucial thing is in metadata, the description of the data. There's a very crucial thing. If you write down and give this description together with the data, that this data is being collected every 2 years, with an accuracy of 5 by 5 centimeters or 10 by 10 centimeters, might be giving a total different view. And based on these metadata and the description, the context of the data, you are able to realize what you can do with the data. So we did some legal studies on that to see who will be responsible. If the metadata is good, then the responsibility is very limited on this. Yeah, in legal kind. Yeah.
Also, the way it's measured might be relevant.
Yeah.
Because there can be systemic errors in, like the speed on the highways.
Yeah.
Is that provided as well here?
If you're supplying the data in a proper manner, you are also supplying the way it's been measured. Yes, okay. That's also part of the context of the data. Because from this, you can conclude what you can do and how you can work with the data, with the open data. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
In a more general sense, if you publish open data, do you feel that the publisher is responsible for misinterpretation of that data?
No. No, I don't think that, because then the open data is supplied free and as is, without registration. So we even don't know who is going to use the data. And it will be a very difficult task for governments to control every application which is being made on their data and being responsible for the outcome of these applications. So based on our Dutch laws we have at the moment, there's no, and I don't think that will change, there's no any responsibility for the supplier of the data on the reuse of data, what kinds of applications that there are. Yeah? Other questions? Yes? Can you have your question in Dutch? You were a not Dutch speaker, so how are you doing in the course?
I don't think I will be able to do it in Dutch. But is public also the way you classify the metadata?
Sorry,
if it's public, how you use metadata classification?
Yeah.
Is also public?
Yeah, the metadata is definitely, that's part of the publication process of open data, is that also the metadata has been published on, and in our case we have data.overheid.nl. So there every metadata is also supplied with the data. And at the moment there's also a European open data portal, and all Dutch open data is also being transferred, synchronized with the European open data portal. So we have a total view of open data on a European level. Which is also interesting is that being translated. The metadata is being translated from Dutch to English automatically. Yeah.
So this means that all ministries in the Netherlands, they are using the same metadata concept.
Yeah, DCAT. Yeah. I think Dennis can tell you much more about DCAT if he wants. Do you want that?
I will do it in my presentation a bit.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Another application. Sorry, yeah.
The data, how is that available? Is that as a big chunk or a web service? Or?
Yeah, that's very different from the perspective of the supplier of the data. Our central point of finding of information is data.overheid.nl. But from this data.overheid.nl, you are getting a link or a reference to the place where the data actual is. And then it's dependent on the supplier of the data, how the data is being made available on that place, in that space. And it can be a web service, it can be a downloadable file, that can be everything. Although we say it should be in an open standard. That's our policy, it should be to work with the data. But on the other hand, if this API can also be a limitation, because if you're sending in a request which is not, and the answer you get is not exactly what you want, then you have to do all kinds of things to get the proper answer. So, in our opinion, you should also supply the raw data alongside a web service, or make a combination of that. But, yeah, thank you. Okay. Another example. This is bridge radar. Yeah, well, it's very easy. You can see which bridges are open in the Netherlands at the moment. Next. Traffic accidents. Not real time. Next. Well, we do have a lot of bikes in the Netherlands, and also accidents are happening there. So this is specifically for bikes. Next. This is a smart city map. All kinds of sensors are visible here. Next. Okay. So tomorrow you go back to your desk and in your archives and where you used to be. Next. And what we think is very important to how you could work with open data as a government or as a society is not to focus on the technological implementations. I showed you a lot of examples, and all of those examples were just showing one data set or probably two data sets with a visualization. But how you're going to help this guy who is suffering from water heights, or next, how we are going to deal with CO2 and environmental issues. Next, how are we going to deal with elderly caretaking? Next. This is a book which has been written by Monique Becker, The Jungle van de Ouders, of the ouderenzorg, caretaking for elderly people. and she had so much problems with dealing with government in the proper way to come to the proper solutions for her. And that's my solutions we're looking for are based upon actually three kinds of stakeholders. That's about people in our society, it's about solvers, people who can do something, can make app developers or creators or inventors, and we have government. And those three should work together in some sort of systematic value cycle to get things done. Next. And from these solutions, there comes effects. If you see, for instance, take next. there are going things wrong. Next. And one of the things which are going wrong is that this solutions makers, for instance, take 10,000 schools. These guys are earning some money with advertisements on their websites, some ads, ad income. And so the first order effect of this solution is just a little bit of money for them. Next. But the second order effect is that the people who are using these applications can find proper schools for their kids. That's very useful for them. Next. And at last you see a government who's really benefiting from the fact that probably, and I cannot prove it, but probably there are less students leaving school early. You can never prove it because there might be a coffee shop closing along in the neighborhood of the school, which can have a dramatic effect on the amount of early students leaving school. But you see that all those effects are not coming together. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem in creating really social value, societal solutions that the values of those three stakeholders are not coming together. Okay, next. So my main problem, and I don't have a solution, again, sorry, but the main problem is that getting together people in our society, technological guys who can create something, and government, how are we going to let them work together? And next, one of the things is that at least we should be an open government with open data. Next. And we should look at the economic value of government working together with solvers. Next. And we should look at societal value of people working together with creators. Next. And we should look at democratic value of people working together with government. Next. And we should look at the systemic value, different ways of working together within this triangle, within these different stakeholders. Next. And it's about a shared information position, what we discussed with the economy. Or it's about a shared stakeholdership, that we take every one, government, techno, society, that they are working together on the same level of stakeholdership. Next. Right. Open approach, open contact, open data. Those are the aspects we really need to fill in to come to a different way of working with open data, to get to the next level of benefits from openness. Next. Yeah, well, I leave this one. Next. 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 A couple of learning points you can have a closer look at. Next. Next. Yes. I would like to conclude my presentation. If you want to have a look at the presentation yourself, take a picture of it and go through it. And the examples are in it, and I hope that you have a different view on open government, open data after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Also, thank you for staying the rest of the day with us. Like I said, we give you some food for thought. So here are some interesting topics that you can discuss. With that, let's have a break then for the coming 30 minutes. So let's not have only coffee and tea and so on, but also have them some discussions around the topics just showed. We will be back at 15:15, so 11:15 in this room, to have some more food for thought. So thank you all, and see you in about half an hour.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yes, you're right, Cor. They can ask me any question they would like. Not sure I'll give you an answer, but the questions are welcome. So, and we did check the clicker, so hopefully I can kill you more elegantly with PowerPoint slides, just like Paul did before. But we are going to try to do my presentation backwards as well. I think that was really clever. And then afterwards you can stream it back on YouTube in reverse and see if it can make sense, right? So, all right. So we're gonna try to dive right in, and I'm gonna put a little bit of a business angle on open data, because lots of good initiatives are out there, and I could stand up here and give you a lot of good examples, just like Paul just did, and of course we could extend that to other countries whom we're working with. But I really want to narrow this down to 7 examples. I want to talk about 7 examples where 4 of them I will say are less successful, and then I'll talk about 3 examples that has taken sort of a different route in open data, and maybe give that some inspiration back to you guys. And then I'll wrap up with a little bit of technology, right? I am from IBM, so we got to slide some technology in there somehow. But hopefully it'll all make sense, and you'll forgive me for some of that technology presentation to be around IBM technology, but it could have been anything else. It just happens to be the technology that I know. So take that as inspiration of how you can work with open data. So I promised you I would start with a little bit of a business angle, and this is a report that McKinsey came out with a few years back, and it's all about the potential value in open data. The potential value in open data. And it actually promises that there's quite a bit that could be achieved, right? And then we have to sort of sit back a little bit and think, okay, how do we get from 7,000 data sets here in the Netherlands to nice value, right? And maybe this is a little bit optimistic, and maybe this is a little over the top, and this is, pushing it a little bit. On the other hand, it actually gives you some good indications of education, transportation, and consumer products could be the areas where you should think about some use cases, at least based on this report. And it also gives you a little food for thought when you think of, Paul showed some very nice insights from the open data sets that you have. And I sit back a little bit. Every time I hear these use cases and these insights, I say, show me the money, right? Where's the business value in having a bridge radar that tells me whether bridges are open or down, right? It's nice, it's fun. Somebody had a hell of a time developing it. Where's the money? Where's that money that will fund the next generation of open data and the next generation of people turning that into value and making a living out of that? And I think that's sort of the trick, and that's what I want to take you by. And then I want to apologize for the next slide, Dennis. I didn't know that you were handing this one out. But this one I used to, and by the way, I stole it and I didn't ask, and I'm guilty. But I use this to sort of illustrate that this is what governments and cities do. They build infrastructure. That's what they've been doing for centuries, right? They build infrastructure to make sure that people who live in the cities and then in the countries, that they profit and there's growth and everybody's happy. And so what happens in a city or in a government is when they put infrastructure in place, it automatically gets used. Somebody automatically picks up this road as soon as it opens and starts driving on it. You know that here in Holland better than anywhere, right? But the question is, if you apply that same mentality to data and you say, we'll just put some data out there and then we hope and pray and guess that somebody will turn that into value, maybe that's not the right approach. So from a mentality perspective, maybe you need to flip this a little bit upside down and not just think about this as building infrastructure. So that was the lead into that. So I promised to give you a little bit of from the outside world, a little input and examples from the outside world. And there's a couple of non-official lists out there that sort of indicates where countries are in the list of open data. And of course, the UK and the US are leading that. Barack Obama has really put this on the list when he took office in the White House. And even before that, when he was a senator of Illinois, we were working closely with him even back then to turn Chicago into a big open data city and a big data city, actually. So we've been continuing that work, and there's a lot of great initiatives around the US. Incidentally, out of the data sets that Chicago put out, you would be pleased to know that the most used data set from Chicago's open data portal is, in fact, a list of employees and their salaries. So again, nice data to look at, but where's the business value in that? So looking at this, we got Netherlands is number 6 here, Denmark is number 9. I personally don't like this because Sweden is number 3 and Denmark is number 9. I like this one a lot better, where Denmark, in fact, is number 3 and Sweden is number 27, right? So I'll stick to this one for a little while. And it doesn't really matter which one you're looking at. And I think they're just sort of trying to give an overview of where countries are from a maturity standpoint in open data. And whether you're number 3 or 27, I'm not sure it really matters. I'd like this one, though, for a simple reason. And the reason is that if you click on any of these blocks, it will actually indicate to you why it's green or red or not yellow, but blue in this case. So how far they've come in that particular segment. And it's also really nice that there's a link, like it's online here, right? So you can click that link immediately and get to that data. And that just provides a portal for me to snoop around and see what countries are doing. And, it also gives a portal to everybody else, right? So if we're sitting here and saying, hey, Taiwan seems to be doing pretty well on open data, could be fun to see what data sets they have. Maybe we could innovate on something there that we could reuse here. It's all open. What about university students, international set of students coming in, maybe even somebody who wants to migrate to Taiwan and start up a new business based on their open data. I mean, that's sort of the things that we're looking to drive with open data. And then you'll be very pleased to know that when you then click on that link to go to the National Statistics Bureau of Taiwan, this is what you get. So there's one guy said it, there's actually one good thing in this page, right? It says XML. But this sort of goes to tell the maturity that we're under. CBS, Dennis, you've done a great job. I was actually able to surf your site and even understand what it said, and without putting my Dutch hat on. So being able to do that in English, I think we know that's important. Even with 16 million people here, you know that it's not just about people who come here locally from, but it's to extend that. Here's another example. It was a winner in 2013 of this European Prize for Innovation on Public Administration in this category that says Initiatives for Citizens. Woo! Right, a European award. Traveled to Ireland, Dublin, I believe, to pick up the prize. Helsinki Region Infosphere. They've been on this bandwagon for quite a while, I think almost as long as you guys. And they're actually doing quite well. They're doing a lot of things. One of the things that they realized is it's not about the number game. It's not about just putting out a whole lot of data sets. They were on that game a while ago, And that was the only KPI they had, right? Just keep pouring out those data sets. And then they realized, well, let's hang on. Maybe it's more about getting back to basics, get the quality in there, think about the usability of this data. So they've been working well on that. And they're doing something with, challenges. We'll get back to the challenge, but they're doing something to stir up enablement and visibility and use of that data. And if you scroll down on their front page here, you can see their newest data sets, right? Actually quite a few from only February and March, so they're cranking out new data sets. It's a constantly living site. And you can also see on the other side here, the monthly top 10. It also makes you wonder a little bit. I mean, it's not huge numbers, right? It's not like putting out dog food. But yeah, there's some pickup from 600, almost 700 to 117 pickups in the top 10. So it's, they're putting focus on this. They have for quite a while and did get their award in 2013. One of the things they did here was they created a group and a team that called Helsinki Loves Developers. So to really sort of, attract developers to look at their open data. And they actually hired 5 guys to run that team. And they have an open calendar. You can take a look at what they're arranging. And every second week, actually every second Thursday, they open up their doors and they have sort of an open hackathon brainstorming session and allow people to come in, meet these code fellows and have fun and hack on the data. So they've done quite a bit to promote the usage of data and go forward on that. And they've even done some challenges, you could say some hackathons, nationwide hackathons, actually going out to different cities and running these. Last year was a record-breaking 163 submitted projects. Spent $60,000 in award money alone. 2 prizes, 1 in a tie, 38 votes for each. So if we can gather 40 people and we can go to Finland next year, we could actually win a prize, right? And when you look at the winners and when you look at the projects, you sit back a little bit again and you say, show me the money. How are you going to turn this into a business? How are you going to turn this into profit? How are you going to, it's all good and fun. And Helsinki openly admits it's a huge challenge for them to keep momentum in this. A lot of money being spent on providing open data, putting it out there, maintaining it, promoting it. A lot of efforts are being done, but it's really hard to have those really good showcases that makes a huge difference. And so I think that's some of the things that we need to think a little bit about when we go into this numbers game. Let's get some more open data sets out there. Well, maybe we should really think carefully about how can we use either what's already out there or how can we request for something else to come out there, right? So, so this is some of the lessons learned from Helsinki. Here's another one. In Switzerland, they just this year released a brand new portal. Look at the number game again, right? Hey, 700 data sets. So of course I had to browse around. Hey, it's even in English. Nice. I took a quick look. Found this one actually terms of use. Nicely. We're going to get back to that in a second. So I can sort of immediately see how can I use this data. Apparently I need to ask if I want to make money on it, but okay, fair enough. And I clicked the data set and I downloaded it. And Lord behold, a lot of wonderful PDFs. What am I going to do with that? When I open each of these PDFs, lots of pretty pictures of buildings, a lot of tables and numbers. Build a website. Don't call this open data. This is not helping me at all, right? And again, how do I turn those PDFs into value? You look, this data set was updated in May 11, so it's a year old. That's another aspect, right? Do you want to start a business based on 1-year-old data? When was this last validated? Do we know? Yeah, question?
Well, but you have to start somewhere, right?
You're right, exactly right. We all have to start somewhere. And this is, and I think that's great, and I acknowledge that. But I also think that maybe we need to apply a different mentality than just play the number game that sort of, let's get data sets out there. Maybe we should think about how can we consider the use cases behind those data sets. And if you're that data owner and you can't really see any use for that data, then maybe it's not worth turning out there. One more comment?
Is your argument that they shouldn't put this out there unless it's in an API or some form? Or should they put it out there in whatever form they have and then try and build on that?
No, I'm questioning whether they should put it out there because somebody's maintaining this. Somebody's keeping this alive. Somebody is trying to keep this up to date. And I'm questioning, I can't get my manager to sponsor me doing things like that if I can't show the return on investment on that sort of effort. So that's my argument. My argument is, let's be sound about it. Let's not build roads and infrastructure that nobody's using. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So these were 3 examples of not so well, I would say, not so successful projects, right? And still a lot of effort put into this. Here's the last of the bad ones. Because it's not just about the data. You would think NASA, cool data, yeah, woo, right? That's exotic. That's a lot different than PDFs from a city. And it is cool data. We've been partnering with NASA for, I think, the last 5 years. We've been doing hackathons worldwide, big powwow in New York. We celebrated the 5th year last year, invited journalists. One journalist said, okay, so if this is the 5th year, what did you get out of the other 4 years? A lot of Coke, drinking and chips eating and hacking on data. But there is no real business value. There is no, show me the 3 companies that started based on this data and are now rocketing to the skies. And, it's okay if you're a government agency and you need to make a profile of yourself that you have nice data and you want to open it up and you want to give it to society. But if nobody can get value out of it, it's just dumb data. And that is turning. There is new projects coming around and there's new interesting stuff coming even from this data set as well.
Can I have a small remark?
Yep.
I happen to know a company that uses this data to investigate possible pollution in oil drilling pipelines.
Great.
They're making millions and millions. The thing is that they probably do not tell this in public because that's their business. They take the data and run. By the way, they had to go through a manual of 35 pages even to start using the data set, but that's again, I think you're making a really very good point, but I think there's also a lot of companies out there that are already doing it without telling it.
Yeah, you're right. And I am deliberately provoking you, right? I am deliberately trying to say, let's not just play the numbers game for the numbers game's sake. Let's not just ask people to hack on our data just because it's fun to hack on data, but let's try to put that business value around it. And of course, there's exceptions to all of these. And I'm sure they're doing great in Taiwan. And I'm sure that, in Switzerland, they're having, good stories as well. So let's not generalize. And I'm just also deliberately trying to provoke you a little bit. And hopefully my next couple of slides will give you insights to why. But it is a little bit going back to the mentality of just putting something out there and then believing somebody will pick that up and turn that into value. Is a mentality that I think we need to challenge. So one aspect is, and Paul actually hit on this already, right? You actually had a list of things where you're sort of saying, well, before you can get your data exposed on the portal, there's some things that we want to make sure that is in place. And there are some standards that's popping up, and that's going to help open data in general. Some of those standards are around use and license. Here's Creative Commons. They have some nice little icons that makes it sort of easy to see. And Paul, you're saying, hey, open data, open for everyone. Anybody can use it, free of charge. Run with it. You don't need to read a manual or sign anything, and that's fine if you can do that for all your data sets. But I think you're also going to find that at some point there's going to be a little bit of a balance, right? There's going to be data that you want to say, here's some sample data that you can look at, and then if you're really interested, you could actually buy access to that data. So licensing term, I think, is one of those standards that we need to, that the open data community need to embrace. Another thing that we've been involved in has been W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, which actually sets out to create different web standards. We've had some team members from IBM involved in that on a recent draft called Data on the Web Best Practices. It is a draft, so you can actually go and have a look. And it's still open for you to come with good input to that. So I'll strongly encourage that. Here they're trying to sort of outline 12 challenges with putting data on the web. And behind each of those challenges, they're putting some best practices. And as you can see, it's clickable links, so it's very easy to navigate this whole compendium of more than 30 best practices. And here's another way of viewing those best practices. If you're concerned about trust, if you're concerned about access or linkability or whatever, there's some best practices that you can tap into. So I think that's another sort of indication that we're now beginning to get ready to a next phase, a next evolution step in talking about open data, and hopefully not just stay down that number game that I know so many companies or countries have been, and cities have been involved with. So I'm going to try to show you 3 different angles on this. And here's the first one. The first one is not what you would expect. It's actually an example from a bank called Citibank. Citibank, like most other banks, they realize that we all need banking, but do we necessarily need a bank? So they need to reinvent themselves. They need to come up with new ways of servicing their customers. And they had a team locked up for some years trying to come up with new ideas. And one of the best ideas they could come up with was actually, why don't we turn some of our data and anonymize it and turn it into open data, and then arrange a series of devoted hackathons only on a few data sets with a clear mission to come up with good ideas. And they took that on tour together with some people from our side, and so together with an innovation platform that we have to allow people to hack around on that open data. They've actually now had to change their department around because they got hundreds of great business ideas from this tour, and they're now working on prioritizing those business ideas and turning them into value for their company. So that's a completely different way of tackling sort of and using open data, right? A very precise and narrow use case, few data sets, and then taking that to market. So here's the next shock. Sometimes it's actually a good idea to ask your customers what they want, right? I know it's a shock. There's people here from IBM in the audience. I know they will be nodding and saying, wow, customers. Yeah. But yeah, you can actually do that. Here's an example from the US Department of Health and Human Services. They created what they call demand-driven open data. I just love that. Demand-driven open data. They even put a process in place and a team. So they said, if you're a data requester, if you have an idea and you would like some data, here's a place where you can go and you can get access to ask for that data access. And there's a team, the demand-driven open data administrative team. You will get to them and they will engage the data owners, and with a bit of luck, you'll get access to that data. So at least that's turning things around a little bit, not playing that numbers game of just turning data sets out there, but really trying to go from the opposite end and saying, if somebody has a use case, is looking for data, how could we help them get that data? I think that's a very, very interesting route to take. You know, one of the examples that I heard the other day from a transportation company was, they said, if we could have insight to what road work is being planned where, that would have a tremendous impact on our business and our ability to plan how we move things around. And we know that data is out there. They know that all the cities are doing all their planning, but very few are disclosing what they're planning to do. So that's sort of the examples of how could you use demand-driven open data to actually find data sets that you already have and turn them in and give business value on that. Last example I want to give you, which is actually a little close to I think what Dennis is going to be showing here in a second on what you have done with a Dutch angle. Because what if you, instead of thinking, I got open data, please see if you can turn that into value, what if you flip that around and say, hey, I got some insights that I created for you based on that open data. See if you can use that insight instead. And here's what the United States Census Bureau did for small and medium businesses. They actually created, based on traditional statistics, they created a portal that helps new business starters to identify where should they actually locate their business. So you get here, you can choose between 7 categories. I chose personal services, and based on that, you get some subcategories. I chose barbershop, right? And then the next, you're asked to put in a location. That could be a state, that could be a city. I put in the city of Auburn, Alabama, where I lived 30 years ago. And then what comes up in front of you is a map of the chosen location. And you can then choose for 60 different ways of viewing that map. So one of the ways that I chose here to use it is consumer expenditures on personal care products and services. So this, together with a few other maps, could actually give me good indication of where would I want to start my new business. Can you see the difference? The difference of not just exposing data sets, but taking those data sets and producing some insight with a predefined use case where you think there's money and value to be gained if you can get more small businesses to start up. That has been driving this. I think that's a good example. I think, Dennis, you're going to show us a little similar of what you've been doing here since 2011, right? So congratulations on that.
A question, Henrik.
Yes.
What these turnaround they also probably need some awareness. For example, the Department of Defense or the Chamber of Commerce. These end users need to be educated that they can use open data or government data from a self-service perspective. And we are not used to. We are not used to going to these departments or these entities like that. So is that part of the plan that they inform the public that they can go in a self-service mode?
Right, exactly. And I think it becomes a little easier when you're not just saying, hey, use my 2,000 data sets, because you don't know who could be relevant for those data sets. But when you turn it into insight, it's more easy to target, where that information should flow. But I think in today's society, I mean, promoting whatever you do and getting the ears of the potential user or customer, that's a constant challenge. I think you saw some good examples of what they're doing in Helsinki. Despite of what they're doing, I think they got like 200 followers on Facebook. It's still rough, right? It's still hard to get access to the right users and communicate your message. So yes.
Okay, but then in addition, do they offer a possibility to share the successes? So for instance, if you started that company based on their story, am I able to share my story on their site?
Yeah, I don't know, but that would be a good idea.
In addition to what the others said.
Yeah, so good success stories always drives more awareness.
You need a platform to share.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good point. All right, so I want to shift gear a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about how could you potentially sort of get away from this mentality of just putting out data sets, but really think about how to get value and insight out of your data. And there's sort of the good old traditional people, process, technology mentality here, right? How do you build a method? How do you engage people to dive into this? And then consider if a toolbox could help some way. And this is where I want to give you a couple of examples. I want to give you an example of an innovation platform that we have that we call Bluemix. And I want to give you a quick example of some easy data mining with a tool called Watson Analytics. And I couldn't because I'm not aware of others who are doing similar stuff, but I'm sure that there's probably similar features and functions and technology out there. But this is just two examples of how you can use tools today. Both examples I'm going to show you are free of charge. There's no cost associated to diving into this. So it's just to run off and have fun. From unstructured data. In this case, I'm going to give you an example on getting value out of text, but it could be getting value out of video or pictures as well. And there's nice tools for that, even within our platform as well. So if you pick some visualization, you can sort of imagine, hey, now we got 3 powerful building blocks. We just need to load the data in, do the analytics, and do the visualization, right? So this is the mentality of this platform, and this is why you can fairly quickly stitch something together based on open data or anything else. And so there's a set of categories that these more than 100 different Lego blocks fit into. We have some cognitive services. And so if you click on this Watson link, which is our brand for cognitive solutions, you'll see a list of our cognitive APIs, also called the Watson Developer Cloud. This is what we promote for people if they want to play around with cognitive and use cognitive capabilities into their solutions. We're planning to have more than 50 APIs released by the end of the year. Right now, this is the list that we have. I click on Alchemy. You can see that it's actually free of charge to use up to 1,000 API calls per day. So that'll get you started free of charge. And if you click the view documentation, and you'll actually find that on most of these APIs, you'll get the ability to try out a demo. So by clicking on try out the demo, here's different options I can try out. You can see here's actually Alchemy Vision. So if I wanted to do picture analysis or video analysis, I could dive into that. But for this, I'm gonna choose Alchemy Language, which allows me to do text analytics. Gives me this page. I click on the load a text example, and then I went out and I searched for your prime minister and found a speech that he did in English, because this solution right now, and the demo only supports English, but the solution supports 8 languages. Dutch is not included. Apologies for that. But then I cut and pasted this speech, and I clicked try it. And based on that, it comes back with some entities for me. And I know it's hard to read, but it basically breaks down the text. And if I scroll down a little bit, you can actually see that it identifies, he's talking about Europe, And Europe is a continent, and he's talking about that in mixed sentiment. And he's talking about the European Council, that's an organization. He talks about that in a positive sentiment. He talks about Winston Churchill in a neutral sentiment. And by the way, Winston Churchill is a person. Turkey, he talks negatively about that. Paris, negatively about that. Probably because he talks about the recent terrorist attacks, right? I haven't read the text. I just tried to put it into this engine to see what I could get out of it. But this sort of goes to tell you that just by clicking around using free, available, open software out there, you can get insights from unstructured text. It's about time for Dennis to get on stage here. Data mining the Watson way. So we have a solution called Watson Analytics. Again, it's free of charge. I know IBM and free, it's like biking and holiday, 2 words that you should never combine, right? But we did. So up here you can see that you can click the upper right corner, try it for free, and then you sign in. You basically just click and upload your data set. Here's where you can find this sample data set, and I apologize, I didn't have time to find an applicable CBS data set, so I found my standard demo data set on this, which is basically just some HR data, right? So this is 1,400 rows of employee data, 36 columns of employee data, and the key column here is attrition, right? Attrition means whether people left the company or not. So let's put ourselves in the mindset of being in HR responsible for a company, and we want to figure out why are people leaving the company. And based on this data set, and now I'm the data owner, I know this data set very well, right? So I know here's a column with attrition, but there's also another column called distance from home. And maybe there's a correlation. Maybe we should actually, when we interview people, we should really put an emphasis on, finding out how big a hurdle it is for them to get to and from work. Maybe we should put an emphasis on that. And so what you can do here with just a couple of clicks, explore your data. Watson Analytics will give you some starting points. And more importantly, these starting points are being communicated in natural language. So Watson is saying, what is the trend of, and then monthly income in bold because that's a heading, over age by attrition, right? So you can actually have a little bit of a conversation with Watson. You can even ask Watson a question. So the question that I ask Watson here is show distance from home compared to attrition. And Watson comes up with 4 results that it finds very relevant to my question, and then some others that are somewhat relevant. Now if I click this one, distance from home compared by attrition, I can actually see that, yes, there is actually an indication that distance from home, that it turned out to average, is a little bit higher on those that has yes in attrition, that actually left the company, compared to those who didn't. So this just goes to illustrate to you that without knowing data in great detail, or without knowing analytics in detail, but knowing your data in detail, you can actually click around and get insight. Last thing I want to show you is the predict capability here. I'm going to click the predict feature, select the data that I just uploaded. I'll select attrition as the one that I want to do and give my analysis a name and click create. Watson will go off and think for about 30 seconds, and I can look at a pretty bar here growing. And then after that, it'll come back with this diagram. And actually, if I look at one field alone, I can see that job role is the strongest predictor of attrition. 2 fields, it's overtime and monthly income. And if I click on a combination of all fields, I get the chance to see this tree view. And if I click on this is where I go. I click yes, because I want to see the ones who have left the company. And that actually gives me an indication of they have overtime, yes, job level 5, no stock options. They are the ones who are leaving the company. And if I click on show this as a business rule, and again click yes for attrition, I can see that there's a 67% chance that people will leave my company if they have overtime and job level 5, and we forgot to give them stock options. So let's take them bowling, or give them stock options, or see them leave, right? But this just goes to tell you that there is tools available out there that allows you to very quickly play with data as long as it's raw data. Dennis, don't put summarized data up there for me. I need raw data to do my own analysis, right? A lot of bureaus are putting out summarized data. And it's driving us nuts because we cannot use engines like this on summarized data. You can start for free as long as your data set is only 50 columns wide and less than 100,000 rows. We can get by on that. You know, that'll be okay for a starter, right? And if you go really wild and you want Twitter feeds and you want, to be able to point at your own data sets and, in your data center and not just upload comma-separated files, then you can, pay $80 per month or something. And if you want to get trained in this, there's free training available on a website called bigdatauniversity.com, where you can also find a lot of other good training. There's, if you want to learn about Watson Analytics, 2 hours of training on Big Data University. It's 15 small videos, so very easy to go through, and that will take you through every button of that solution. And then while you're at it, you can start looking at Python and NoSQL and Big SQL and R and Spark, and you can go wild at Big Data University. And yeah, one question.
I have a question. In your earlier part of the presentation, I interpret that you say that you don't need to put out raw data because people can't use it and you should sort of interpret it for them. And here you say that you need raw data because you need to do your own analysis. How does that?
So I'm not saying that we can bypass raw data, right? I think we need raw data, but we also need to think about the use case of how can we turn that raw data into value. That was really what I was trying to say. Okay. And also, don't give me raw data that I have no use for, but give me raw data that I really believe is valuable for my use case. Yeah. All right. So with that, I want to thank you. Here's some summary points and conclusions, but you can read that afterwards. I think it's time for our next presenter. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you.
And for the people that are close watching, there are some presents over here, but they will be on stage again, so we will handing only the presents at the end of this day. So with that, I'm almost turning it over to Dennis, almost, because 2 seconds before that, after this presentation by Dennis, we will have, of course, lunch. But you can only have lunch. I will give you some more insights in what we are going to do this afternoon. But you can only have lunch if you are signing in for the afternoon sessions. So I will come back to that one. With that in mind, I want to hand it over to Dennis. He will give some insights in what he is doing at the moment, but also some future looking, so the road forward. And so in that sense, the floor is yours.
Okay. I think I have 2 big challenges. The first one, I have to follow up 2 big presentators, and I'm not a big presentator. And the second one, for me, this is the first time it's live streamed. And it's something that belongs to open data, because in the future, much more, everything you will say will be open. And this is the first time I experience it, what it will mean in practice. Have a presentation and then see it later on YouTube. First of all, I want to say something about myself. I'm an IT project leader in the past, and I from 2006 I'm involved in Stadt and in our all our output data. And I moved, in fact, from IT to also know a lot of the business. If you look to open data, it's not IT, it's not business, it's a combination of it from the perspective of the supplier. If you look to the demander, it can be everything, because everybody can use it, and you don't know, it can be IT, it can be business, even can be student. So that is a very interesting area you are working in. So yeah, open data is fun to be in. In my presentation, I will say something about Statistics Netherlands, about how we came, the ancestors of open data, and what was really interesting is what was the trigger for Statistics Netherlands to really go that way. And the rest opened the project, the open data in practice. If you have questions, you can ask them directly. The others did it, so I have to do it also. Statistics Netherlands. We were founded in 1899 by a royal decree to, sometimes I have to read, to collect, process and publish statistics to be used in practice for public, for policy making and scientific research. In those times, it were harsh times in the Netherlands, the 19th century. There was child labor, there was low, the wages were low, and with statistics we could underline the political debate. And from 1899 we stayed. Since 3 years we have 3 offices, one in the Caribbean and the rest in the Netherlands. And I think the other figures speak for themselves. And I want to point out the last one. We have 100,000 followers on Twitter. We invest in Twitter to get in contact with all our customers. So I think there will be a number of tweets about this session too. The important role of statistics. I think what is important is that we are independent. We are not influenced by political parties nor with commercial parties. Everything we publish is independent. Our objectivity and reliability are high, and we have to deliver a high quality. That are the key factors of our production. And we want to give the Dutch society a good insight, so you can rely on all our data. And that was a question: what can you use open data? Do you know if it's reliable? If you use CBS data, you can, and we provide it also with all metadata, etc. And one thing, privacy is data protection is in the vessels of a CBS employee. Huib said it in the start. Privacy is one of our main things we have to look at. So the question, give me raw data, we are not allowed to do it. Very simple. We are only allowed to give statistical data. All our output, it's impossible that you find a person in it, or do you find a business in it. That we take a lot of measures so that you can't reveal any individual information. We also, when we collect our data, names and addresses, etc., are directly separated from the rest of the files. And employees only get access if they are authorized to access the data for certain reasons. So I'll never get any in contact with raw data because I'm at the output. And one essential aspect, data may only be used for statistical purposes. And we collect a lot of data, but even the NSA can't use our data. It's not used for anything else than statistical purposes. That is, I think, a very important thing, that even the police can't use our data. We cover a broad way of subjects. It goes from potatoes to childcare to even cyberbullying. So we cover a lot of subjects of the Dutch society and get a lot of information about it. 80% of our program is ordered by the Eurostat, the European Commission, and the other 20% we based on where there were white holes in all the things, all the information we publish. So we publish, you can find almost broad way of information at Statistics Netherlands. And the first step is data collection. In the past it was surveys and interviews. The last 20 years we are using registers in, more and more. And in the Netherlands there are there are about 14 basic registries, and a lot of them. We all use them for our making of statistics. And when it's necessary, we have interviews and we have online surveys. And the fact that we have a WOP doesn't mean that an individual can ask what information we have, because all is protected only for statistical use, and we don't give it free to anyone, even your own information.
Dennis, on the data collection, can I have a question?
Yeah.
Do you also retrieve, say, real-time information? So, for example, traffic patterns from roads, or I mean, this is registers interviews online.
Yeah.
What I can imagine is that the government also put in a lot of measurement equipment, sensors.
We use them for statistical purposes. So the example you give, the things in the road, we use it, but to make statistics out of it is how is the traffic in a certain area. We are not spreading the information. We make statistics out of it and then put it out.
Okay, but aren't these some examples of raw data which can be anonymized, or probably is already quite anonym, like, for example, a car passing on a certain road?
Yeah.
That has value to society, economics, etc.
Yes, but we are. Our mission is to spread statistics, not to be the provider of open data for other organizations. So, in fact, the provider already did it as open data. Then we don't have to do it also. That we only do it when it's not there at that time. On a high level, this is the process at Statistics Netherlands. We collect the data, it's checked if everything is correct, or if there are misformats or something like that. Then we link it and classify it, because when you have a register, we have other information and we can link it to that register. If necessary, we edit it, and then it's aggregated and tabulated, and after that analyzed and published. We also always compare it with other years or with other sources to get the right information. And I have I don't know if this is working. Leo, can you click on it? An example of the census, that it's a video of 2012, how we make the census, and give you an insight how we work. And it's a bit about where is the money. Goes to 2012. Every country on the same year have a census. This was 1971, our last census in the old-fashioned way. Here you have the figures of 2012. So this is give you an idea how we work. But then to the main subject, open data. In fact, in 1984, we had our first version of our output database. It was a simple data set, record-based, as you saw it just on the screen of Henrik, with topics and dimensions. And the thing what we added, dimensions, is that we don't say male on it. If you remember Henrik, there was a column, gender with male, female. What we did is gender. Gender had a number, for instance 1, and that means male. And we also put a description to it, what was a male. And female, what was a male or female. You can say a male is not changing. In 1984, a male is different than a male in 2016 because we have transgenders and they are now a different category. So even male and female change in time. But what we did was created dimensions and then putting information to it to describe it. And topics are income and things like that. So we have a model of topics and dimensions. That was our base. And that is still what is in red are things we are using in open data. In 1995, we had our first version of Stadline on the internet. You could dynamically adjust your table. At that time, we didn't call it open data, but it's in the same year as open data occurs. And it was in a time Netscape was the dominating browser. And Internet Explorer was just coming on. 2000 was also an important year. At that time, our board of directors decided that it was obligate to use the output database. Before that, a number of statistical units produced their own books and didn't use Stadline and the output base to put the data on. It was the application. In fact, that was also a main step towards success of open data. And in 2000 was the first year there was a camera in a mobile phone. 2007, the year that the iPhone came on the market, it was not a good year for us. That was the moment that we had a project to replace our old Stadline database, and that failed in that year. In the beginning of the year, we stopped because the model was too complex, and the cost of conversion were very high. So it was not interesting to go on it. I started in 2006, so I was involved in implementation. And in the beginning of 2007, we decided to go another way. And maybe it's the failure of the project is the success that we have open data now. Because in that project there was a kind of web service that we could never, I think, have the potential we have now. 2007, 2009, we had, in fact, damage control. First of all, we had directly to build a new version of Stadline, because the old one we didn't any maintenance for a number of years, and we connected it to the old database. We introduced an automatic output process. Units produced a Stadline table, and in the past they mailed it to the central edit unit, and after that they could upload it, and there was also an automatic process in it that it was approval and etc. It was you need an automatic process to have good open data. But there was also a step forward. And the third one was very interesting. We improved all our metadata. We hired students, half of four, that is fourth grade schoolers, and they read all the topics and all the descriptions, and they've commented what was understandable and what is not. The fact that we have metadata that people can understand, I think that is an important success of open data. You need understandable text, and by using half of four, we have a norm that we could look at. If a half of four student can understand it, it's good. If he can't, then you have to try to have another description or another title. And then we get 2010, that was a very interesting year for me. We had an internal contest for an innovation proposal. There was one competitor. And we had 2 months with 3 persons, myself and 2 programmers, to build a demo application for the iPhone. It was new, and in 9 weeks we succeeded to build a demo application. We were completely free what was in it, but we managed to get all our tables in it with a dynamic option to change the presentation. And we presented it at the board of directors, a group of 10, the demo, and we did not only presented it, we also give an iPhone to them so that they could see themselves. For a number of people, it was the first time they had an iPhone, and they could see that it worked on their iPhone. That made the difference. That was a presentation that we didn't get any questions because everyone was listening and was looking for, wow, what is this? And then we get the question, how much time? And we said 1 month, now we got 2 months. And in 2 months, we completed it and put it in the iPhone store. On June 5, it was a Saturday, we released it on Thursday. Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, my children were playing soccer at 9 o'clock. We were 5th in the top 25 of all the iPhone apps in the App Store. And after the match, it was about 10:30, we were climbing to the 3rd place. And at 11:28, we were 2nd in the overall iPhone store. I don't think you can get as high as now with government. We only beat by Marktplaats, that was the Dutch equivalent of eBay. And they also released on Thursday. Now we couldn't beat them, but I can take that loss. But it means that there was a change of feeling within the organization with Stadline and output base. The failure of 2007 means that a lot of people were less interested in output. It took a lot of effort to improve the metadata. But after they saw what was possible, there was a much more willingness to invest and see Stadline as a very important thing. And in fact, this was the first time we reused data. And because we built the app in an iPhone, we developed it in a completely different surrounding. We were in fact ourselves reusing the data. And I think that is important. If you want open data, start reusing it yourself. Then you know what you're putting out of it. And I think the last one is also very important. We found out that mobile is leading all the developments in IT. In the past, the big screens were the driver. You have to be mobile and you have to think about can you get it in a graphical way. It was a nice app, but we only had 10 graphs out of 3,000 data sets. That is very few. And what we saw is we built in web services for the iPhone. It wasn't fit for public use. The thought that we published this web service as an API and others could use it, it was a nightmare for me. I thought, no way, that you need too much information how statistics work, and technically you want a good product, and this wasn't a good product. And what we also saw is that the quality of the certain meter was not good enough. If you have a solution with, at that time it was 2,500 data sets, you have to unify the time and the region dimension, else you can't make graphs out of it, or you can't make maps out of it. The fact that we saw the iPhone app, it put us on the track to unify the time and region dimension. But an important thing, the organization was willing to invest in it. The benefits were very obvious. And in 2011, the first thing we did, yeah?
A question, do you also now go abroad, for example to the EU or to the US, to look for metadata definitions?
If you look to metadata, what we do is on a data set level, we follow the DCAT standards, and we are going to improve it. If you look to the record level, and for instance you have gender with male, there is no metadata standard for that. And if you want a meta standard for that, you can go to the level of a cell. There is a metadata standard of that, but it's such a detailed level, you can't make apps out of it. A record-based effect, there are no good standards for if you use dimensions to do that. And in fact, my belief is we should have unified dimensions, and then you have a much bigger use of data sets. You can combine them. If you look to the Dutch meta sets of Stadline, you can combine them on region and on time, not on other dimensions. In fact, what was very interesting is that our technique, we had the old database, we didn't change the model, we simply put a central database out of it. It was a NoSQL solution and we stayed with it. In fact, in 2005, it was a database solution, and nowadays NoSQL is also the good one. The fact that we have a failure, in fact, it's our advantage. And the second step is all our meta is in XML, so it's easy to adapt. And one essential thing for open data, because we have a new database, we could have automatic control by updates. So we could guarantee that an update is an update, that if it's only a textual change it is, and if you have a redesign also you can do it. If you control it manually, that is a problem with computer-computer interaction. And the big step forward was unifying time and region dimension. That makes that it's possible to make graphs out of all the tables. From 10 you can go to 3,000. We also did, I didn't do it, but another group looked, investigate open data. The fact the things who is standing on that, we investigate and wrote a report on it. So we knew that we can do open data. The report is on the site of, I think it's on opendata.nl, but I don't know sure. But it's, if you want it, it's there. And that were the steps that we know we could do open data. And at the same time, we did a proof of concept with the Asia data market. The fact that building your own API without any guidelines, we thought it wasn't a good way. We started to do proof of concept with the Asia data market. And we tried to load all the Stadline tables on it and then publish it. We managed to load them all, and we published about 10 as a proof of concept. And with the proof of concept, we looked at two things. You have to build an app on it, because we built a simple app on the Asia data market. But we also looked at can you use it from out of Excel or from out of Tableau, use it on a different way for different purposes. And both worked. So with the proof of concept, we knew that the Asia data market could work, but there was a lot of work to do before we were there. And at the end of 2012, our board of directors decided go for open data. but they asked, are there alternatives for the Asia data market? Because they were hesitated to use a commercial packet to be dependent on Microsoft for our most important process, giving data to the public. So they asked, are there alternatives? At that moment when we said yes, they are there. We knew that OData was below the Asia data market, was fitted for the Stadline data, so we knew we could use OData, and we had in fact our requirements for our API. And then we said, we can build it ourselves. And because we follow an open standard, it means that there is a lot of open source around there, because you don't have to build as much as when you completely design it yourself. It was a lot of less cost and certainty that it was possible. So in 2013, in August, we launched our beta version. And we did a beta version because we want to get in contact with the users, but not in front go to talk them all. If you look how many different information we have far too many consumers to talk with. And if you're going to talk to consumers, you get requirements, so you get a lot of requirements. We decided follow a standard, use that standard, work with a beta, and then collect what information, how they think about it. We put 150 of the 200 most used tables because we have a problem with performance at that time. So we only use the small tables and release it. And what was very interesting is we have a short time to build a beta version. That means that we couldn't put all of the things we wanted in the beta version. We had to decide that keep it simple, do this, not do this, let things out of the beta version. And when we released it, the first thing we heard, keep it simple. Don't think for us as a consumer, we can do it for ourselves. So a lot of things that didn't make the beta also didn't make the final release. After we released it, we had time to wait for what people are finding of it, and we used that time to find a solution for the performance. And we found it in the open source. We use another open source component, and then we could solve the problem with our performance. In 2013, we released our open data portal in June with all our data sets. The beta release we released on the Open Data Congress organized by Paul. I think it was the first time I get in contact with Paul. And we asked, we hired the winner of the Dutch app contest to help us with how do you release a beta version. He said, don't do an app contest, just he advised us to do a creative workshop with a facilitator so you can get ideas what you can do with all the data we provide. And first time I find out that the users of open data are competitors of each other, so they don't tell everything. We also directly used LinkedIn. That was also an advice of him, because with LinkedIn you are visible. Your photo is in it, and CBS Open Data get a face. If you have a discussion group, it's anonymous, and you don't know who is behind it. What we also found out is we had our LinkedIn. We started with it. There were companies who are not get member of a LinkedIn. They hired, in Dutch it's called ZZP'ers, with hired persons who joined the LinkedIn group because they don't want to know that competitors that they were using CBS Open Data. Just you are open, but the ones who are using your data are closed. We also put a disclaimer, explanation. If you read it right, you can see what you can do with open data. Explain, user guide, disclaimer, and privacy statement, all to it. And this is what can happen if you, but that's, I don't think that it's part of open data. A quick overview of our systems. We have an output base. In fact, it goes back to 1984 and was rebuilt in 2011. Our web application had a facelift in 2001 or 2011. And what we did was build an API on the same data, because all our data has to be released on the same moment. We are simply using the same information, and built two products above it. A portal, you can find all the data sets there are. There is a link to the data.overhead.nl, but we have our own portal to give extra functionality. And we are building an app, it's still under construction, to be the replacement of the Stadtline web application, so we can get rid of it.
Dennis, you were talking earlier about the technology behind what you built, and I'm sure not everybody's interested here, but some people are. Is there some place where we can see how you built it and what tools you used? Or would you be willing to talk about it at some other?
Another time, I think. It's, I will have a short demonstration, and I'm asking Leo to start at it. This is our Stadtline website, and you can see here the themes we have. We have a lot of different areas, we have information on it. I will go to Enterprise, to Business Look, produces income, and show the data. This is the old way we presented our data, and what you can see is that you can't make graphics out of it, you can't make maps out of it, but you can download it. So in fact, it is it is not really open data, but in fact the first step to it. If we go to the next one, this is our portal. We have the same themes. And this is what we presented out of a data set. We have an explanation. You get the license. We have two APIs, because what we found out is that when you want to make an app, you want a small amount of data quickly. And if you want, if you have an Excel or what thing, you need a lot of data, but the speed doesn't matter. So that's the reason why we came with two APIs with exactly the same information. But with those tools, we could guarantee that we have performance, but also we could guarantee that you can show all the data of it. And we have 3 downloads. We had the metadata, you can download the metadata. And we have 2 downloads, original and dataset for graphical presentation. That comes because our data contains information if a figure is secret or is not there. There are special signs of it, and you can't use it in graphics. So that's the reason why we came with 2. With the same information, only when it's a graphical set, all the special signs are left out of it. So everybody is showing the data on the same way. If you have every consumer to ask, get the symbols out of it, everybody can do it on a different way, or it's less valuable for them. So you can download it, and if you click on one, you can make your own selection and download the CSP or JSON. That is the way we have a question.
Yes, can you give me maybe an example of the differences between both datasets? I think I don't understand it fully.
Maybe I can send, if you have a record, When it's secret, there is a dot in it. It means that it's secret. And if it's a dot in it, you can't use it in Excel to make a graphic out of it. The one record contains the dots. That is the original data set. The graphical data set doesn't contain the dot. It simply
it's basically pre-filtered for people that don't want to that want to use the data as it comes and not filter it in any way.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You know that a lot of people want to have graphics out of it, and in fact it's helping them, and also provide original information. Maybe you can go to the last one. Maybe we can go the same way. You have the same information. You're the only, and now we are directly show a graphical presentation. It's the same as what you saw in Stadline, but you can directly see it, and you can easily adjust it so you can get different ways of looking at your data. So we're making our data visible on a modern way, and we also have the possibility to download the figure or to download the data. So in fact, we have 3 products around our open data. We have our APIs, we have our data portal where you can find the data sets and then can you download it, and we have a graphical presentation of it, but we're still developing it as a replacement of Stadline. Can we go back to the presentation? Okay. We ended with this one. Examples of open data use. What we see in the top left corner is somebody who make their own Stadline. It was interesting to see. Statisticians at Statistics Netherlands didn't agree the way the graphics were made, but I found it very interesting because I got ideas out of it how we could improve our app. So it's interesting that you give open data and then you can use the ideas of others for your own organization. The right corner is Smart City, also Paul. You can look to your own municipality on different ways. The left bottom is a presentation of population growth, where you can look interactively to different way how the population is evolving in the Netherlands. And there's also an app in the App Store with the most important figures who's using Stadline. And he has a model behind it that if you want more, you have to pay for it. So there is a bit money. A number of more examples. There are 4 more, but I took some. Left corner is a local focus. This is an organization who provides tables and figures and tables and graphs for newspapers and for websites, etc. Nu.nl, NSA and others are using it. It's a startup who's using our open data, make presentations out of it and sell it to newspapers, etc. Right top corner is RTL, a news organization who has information about the neighborhood, who also collects information from Open Data Stadline. And the bottom one is an interesting thing about open government. We also provide those days all the financial figures of local governments, municipalities, province, etc. Put it as open data, and they build an application you can compare your municipality with another municipality. So these are examples of open data in practice. Last one, I think a place where the money is, but we don't know. I know Randstad uses it for their internal systems, and SZP also for their internal systems. Randstad had 1.5% cut because we came with open data. In the past they used Stadline, downloaded things manually, and now they could use it automatically, and that was for them a big step. and Social Culture Plan Bureau. They followed about 400 tables, and always they have to manually update it at the same time. With Open Data CBS, they built a program and they can simply, with one click, update it all. So there are examples of organizations who are really using open data. Because we have an... you have a question?
Yeah, this is very interesting. Do they share the value that, for example, Randstad has from your data? Do they share that with you? Do they come and visit you and tell you, we really like your data because we can use it for these and these types of...
Randstad visited. I visited Randstad. It was the way back. And I also visited Social Culture Plan Bureau. I know there are more out of that, but I don't know them. And that is the world we are open, but the users make money and they're not telling their competitors that they are using it. So that is, you have to live with it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So suppose this service is offline for whatever reason. How quickly, let's say, users will give a note to you?
We had a problem and it was, I think, 1 hour we get call, for half an hour we get a call.
Okay, so that's a good positive sign, I would say.
Yeah.
They're using it, they are depending on it.
Yeah. We had also follow-up. We copied our software and our database, and that means that others can use our open data street for them. So, at this moment, we are RIVM is still in process. We have a number of clones of Stadline, and they have there's one service, but we can have different catalogs on it, so we can have different portals on it. So we're seeing it as a service for other governmental organizations. And the top one is an interesting one. That is IV3. That is the financial information. In the past, they send it to CBS, and then we make statistics out of it and publish it. Because it's not secret, we publish what we get inside directly as open data. And then we make statistics out of it, but on a different way. We are only on an aggregated level, because we have to correct information, but then we do it on an aggregated level to give the right information to Eurostat. But the fact that's the first step, that you have one place and you get all the information of municipalities, instead of that you can go to every municipality and ask for their financial figures. Key factors, I think open data, if you want to be successful, it should be computer-computer interaction, no human behind it. So the definition of it is computer readable for statistic method is not enough. It should be computer-computer interaction, because there is the real value. Metadata it's all about metadata, and start using open standards, because you can't go to talk to all your clients and ask what you want. You can do it on the level of the data, but not on the level of the API or how it's simply follow open standards, and then even if the standard is changing, you're changing along with it. With open data, we are version 3. We will go to version 4, and in this past it will go to 5. You follow simply what is going it. And what is very important, the willingness within the organization. We manage that with the iPhone app. That we saw the advantage of it. And a key factor is reuse it yourself. Then you see what others have to face. If you reuse it yourself, you can see what others have to face. And then you see open data. Don't think that the one who is collecting and who's using it directly is going to present it. It's also, it can be a chain. So the moment it's presented, it can take a long time. What we also did, we used our open data experience for new output principles. We see now for Statistics Netherlands 2 types of use. Direct, and that means that you are visible on a website or on an app. And we see that indirect, and that means that you are available by open data services. Those two we see at different types. And we have an open architecture. That means we're going to an open architecture, but we're still not there complete. That our apps and websites use our open data services. So we are completely open. If you go to what information you see on the web, it's also available as open data services. And in fact, all our public content will be available as open data services. I think we take maybe 2-3 years to complete it, but this is the way we're going. Simply open data as a base for all our communication out now to outside. And my personal things about open data in the Netherlands. The first one, open data for transparency within government. I think, there's a driver that's already there. I think it's very important. At this time, we have a way, or the government is organized that, in fact, they are silos. It is a process-driven government. There are ideas to go to an information-driven government, but then don't think in silos. You have to combine information of different governmental organizations. You have to and use it for your own way of making politics and making decisions and using it. There is the aspect of privacy, so there are very good restrictions, what to do or not to do. But if the government goes to an information-driven government, then you have to think more. It's more than open data. It's data as a whole. That means that I think that the governments at this time can decide themselves how they exchange the information. I think it's if you want really big steps in open data, in a better government, the effect is that there should be a centralized way of information exchange between all of them. Then you can get big steps. We have a lot of information within the Netherlands, within organizations, and if you can combine them and use it for policy reasons to get better decisions, better plans, and you have to take care of the privacy, that it's not big brother is watching you, and you have to be aware of that. Like that our data is not used by politics or by NSA, by politicians of NSA. It shouldn't use for that kind of things, but if you combine them, you can get a lot of more data. For instance, if you combine the information of wages or how many people earn and combine it with income, you get you can get open data of every silo. On an aggregated level, you can't combine them. On a detail level, you can combine them and then publish it, aggregate it and publish it. So you can adjust income with what is your indication, etc. Make open data out of private data with combined governmental data. And it also is the fact that municipalities also get involved in it. They should the same way. You can't go to every municipality to get open data. It should be one place and with the same way the information is organized. And the last one, I looked at you. I think there is an economic value, but that comes from the demand organization. What we did is all our data we have to publish. We publish as open data, but we are a supplier. We can't say we are going to make all this also available. Combine different sources, etc. I think in the Netherlands it's important that there comes a demand from as small businesses and from big businesses. Then we can do the next step. It can't come from the suppliers. I think that was my end. get the sign that I have to stop. Maybe one question? No, okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
And as promised, the present will be later on.
Yeah.
With that, before going to lunch, there will be some breakout sessions this afternoon with then the topics that have been discussed this morning, and also most probably during lunch then. So you see 1, 2, 5, huh? Yeah, so 5 breakout sessions. So the task for you is, before going to lunch, to write down your name for one of those. And I think we have 2 breakout sessions, therefore you can put your name on 2. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Just checking in, having the open data source communication. So there will be 2 breakout sessions, and you can so sign up for 2 of them. And doing that, it will allow you to go to lunch, and let's go into this room again about 1:30. So first off, sign up, then have lunch, be back here at 1:30. Thank you so much. By the way,